Most gardeners who grow strawberries run into the same problem. The plants look healthy, the flowers show up right on schedule, and then the fruit just never comes the way it should. A handful here, a small bowl there, and by midsummer the plants look tired and the harvest is basically over. Here is what very few gardening guides will tell you. The problem almost never starts with your watering. It rarely comes down to sunlight either. In the majority of cases, the real issue is happening quietly in your soil, and it starts before the first flower even opens. There is one simple amendment that experienced strawberry growers have been using for generations. It costs almost nothing. You likely already have it if you use a fireplace or a backyard fire pit. And when you apply just 1 tablespoon of it around each plant at exactly the right moment in the season, it can completely change how your strawberry plant performs from late spring all the way through summer. But there is a mistake that almost every beginner makes with this ingredient. And if you make that same mistake, it can actually work against you instead of helping. I will cover that too, so you know exactly what to do and what to avoid. And if you are not subscribed to Smart Gardening yet, do that now, and give this video a like so more gardeners can find it. So why do strawberry plants so often fail to produce the way we expect them to? You put them in a sunny spot. You water them regularly. You may have even added a general-purpose fertilizer in the spring, and still the harvest disappoints. To understand what is really going on, you have to look at what strawberry plants actually need at each stage of their growth. Strawberries are heavy feeders, but they are specific feeders. They do not need equal amounts of every nutrient across the whole season. In the early weeks of spring, a small amount of nitrogen helps the plant push out new leaves and build energy. But the moment flower buds begin to form, the plant's nutritional needs shift completely. At that point, it needs potassium and calcium far more than it needs nitrogen. Potassium is a nutrient that controls how sugars move through a plant. It regulates the opening and closing of tiny pores on the leaves, manages water movement inside the plant, and directly supports the development of strong, full fruit. When potassium is low in the soil, the plant can produce flowers, but it struggles to carry those flowers through to a full, juicy fruit. The berries that do form tend to be small, oddly shaped, or they dry up before they ripen properly. Calcium works alongside potassium. It strengthens cell walls in developing fruit, which is what gives strawberries their firmness and their ability to hold up without rotting prematurely on the plant. Low calcium is also one of the leading causes of tip burn on strawberry leaves, which many gardeners mistake for a disease or a watering problem. Now here is where the common mistake enters the picture. Many well-meaning gardeners reach for a standard balanced fertilizer, something like a 10-10-10 granular product, and apply it right through the growing season without adjusting. That consistent nitrogen supply keeps pushing leafy, vegetative growth when the plant is trying to shift its energy toward fruiting. The plant essentially stays stuck in a growth mode when it should be in a fruiting mode. You end up with big, lush, beautiful plants that produce a fraction of the berries they are capable of. The other mistake happens with soil pH. Strawberries prefer a slightly acidic soil, somewhere between 6.0 and 6.5 on the pH scale. When the pH drifts too far in either direction, the plant cannot absorb the nutrients already present in the soil, no matter how much fertilizer you add. This is called nutrient lockout, and it is far more common in home gardens than most people realize. The ingredient that addresses both of these problems at the same time is wood ash. Plain, ordinary wood ash from a fireplace, a wood-burning stove, or a backyard fire pit. This is not a new discovery. Farmers and gardeners have been using wood ash to improve soil fertility for thousands of years. What modern soil science has done is explain precisely why it works so well, particularly for fruiting plants like strawberries. Wood ash is one of the most concentrated natural sources of potassium and calcium available to a home gardener. Analysis published through University Extension Research confirms that hardwood ash contains roughly 5 to 7% potassium by weight, along with meaningful levels of calcium, magnesium, and several trace minerals that strawberry plants use during fruit development. These nutrients are in a water-soluble form, which means they become available to plant roots relatively quickly after application, unlike some slow-release organic amendments that take months to break down. The calcium in wood ash also plays a secondary role that many gardeners overlook. It helps buffer the soil and improve its structure at the microscopic level, making it easier for roots to access both water and nutrients. Strawberry plants have relatively shallow root systems, usually concentrated in the top 6 to 8 inches of soil. That means the quality of that upper layer of soil has an outsized effect on how the plant performs. Wood ash also raises soil pH slightly. This is actually one of its greatest strengths for strawberry growing when used correctly and in the right amount. If your soil has become too acidic over time, perhaps from repeated applications of peat moss, pine needle mulch, or acid-based fertilizers, a small amount of wood ash can bring the pH back into that ideal range where strawberries can absorb nutrients efficiently. The Royal Horticultural Society in the United Kingdom has long recommended wood ash as a potassium source for fruiting plants, noting that it acts quickly and is particularly beneficial when worked into the soil before and during the flowering period. Oregon State University Extension research similarly supports the use of wood ash as a soil amendment for berry crops, with a consistent recommendation to use it in moderation and to test soil pH before and after application. Now, here's exactly how to use it correctly, because the application method and timing matter just as much as the ingredient itself. First, you want to apply wood ash at the right point in the season. The most effective window is just before your strawberry plants begin showing flower buds in spring. In most parts of the United States and southern Canada, that falls somewhere between late March and early May depending on your growing zone. In the United Kingdom, late April through early May is typically the right window. You are looking for that moment when the plant has pushed out its first new leaves of the season, and you can see small bud clusters begin to form at the center of the plant. Before you apply anything, take a moment to check your soil pH if you have an inexpensive pH meter or test strips. If your soil is already sitting at 6.5 or above, hold off on the wood ash entirely, because pushing the pH higher could actually lock out iron and manganese, which strawberries also need. Wood ash is most beneficial when the soil pH is below 6.2. When you are ready to apply, use approximately 1 level tablespoon of dry wood ash per plant. Sprinkle it evenly around the base of each plant in a ring, keeping it about 2 inches away from the crown of the plant itself. The crown is that central growing point right at the soil surface, and direct contact with concentrated ash can sometimes irritate the tender tissue there. Once you've spread the ash, use a hand fork or a small trowel to work it very gently into the top inch of soil. You do not need to dig deeply. You just want to incorporate it into the upper layer, where the feeder roots are most active. Then water the area thoroughly. This helps move the soluble potassium and calcium down toward the root zone and prevents the ash from blowing away or sitting on the surface as a dry crust. Do not apply wood ash when rain is forecast within the next few hours. Heavy rain shortly after application can wash the ash away before it has a chance to integrate into the soil, and concentrated ash runoff is not something you want near other plants or waterways. 1 tablespoon per plant is the right amount. More is not better with wood ash because it raises pH. Applying it too heavily or too frequently can push your soil alkaline, which causes a different set of nutrient problems. 1 application per season is generally sufficient. If you want to give your plants a second boost in midsummer, when the fruiting period is at its peak, a light foliar spray of diluted wood ash water, made by soaking a small handful of ash in a gallon of water overnight and straining it through a cloth, can provide a gentle potassium top-up without affecting soil pH significantly. Keep your wood ash dry before use. Ash that has been rained on loses much of its soluble potassium content as the nutrients leach out. Store it in a dry container with a lid until you are ready to apply it. Always use ash from clean, natural hardwood. Avoid ash from treated lumber, plywood, chipboard, painted wood, or any wood that may have been chemically treated. Those materials can introduce harmful compounds into your garden soil. Oak, maple, fruitwood, and other hardwoods produce the richest ash in terms of mineral content. So what should you realistically expect after applying wood ash to your strawberry bed? Within the first 2 to 3 weeks, you should notice a stronger flush of flower development. Plants that previously produced scattered blooms may start producing more clusters. As those flowers develop into fruit, you should see improved fruit set, meaning a higher percentage of flowers actually completing development into full berries rather than dropping prematurely. By midsummer, Gardeners who use wood ash correctly alongside appropriate watering and adequate sunlight consistently report larger individual berries, better flavor due to improved sugar content, and a longer overall fruiting window, compared to plants that receive no potassium supplementation. These are not dramatic overnight changes. They are steady cumulative improvements that build throughout the season. If you have everbearing or day-neutral strawberry varieties, which produce multiple flushes of fruit rather than one concentrated harvest, the benefits of wood ash tend to be even more noticeable because those plants have a longer period of active fruit production to sustain. It is also worth saying clearly that wood ash is not a replacement for good basic care. Your plants still need consistent moisture, particularly during fruit development when irregular watering leads to problems like poor fruit size and tip dieback. They still need adequate sunlight, at least 6 hours of direct sun daily, and every few years, dividing older strawberry beds and refreshing the soil will keep your patch productive in ways that no single amendment can replicate on its own. But as a targeted, affordable, and genuinely science-supported way to improve potassium and calcium levels at exactly the moment your plants need them most, 1 tablespoon of wood ash per plant is one of the most practical things you can do for your strawberry harvest this season. If you have a fireplace or a fire pit, you're already sitting on a resource that most gardeners overlook completely. Give your strawberries what they are actually asking for at the right time of year, and the difference in your harvest will speak for itself.